guys, Steve here for iPhone New Zealand. Today we're just going to take a look at the New Zealand Herald app for the iPad, which just got released yesterday in time for the New Zealand launch of the iPad. Thought we'd do a video review because this is one of those apps where putting it into words doesn't quite convey the feeling of the app, and I really want you to see this. So we're just going to fire up the iPad. It's a very beautiful app. So when we're loading it up, first thing we get is a nice little animation, and then we're taken to the front page, if you like, of the newspaper, and you'll see it's very nicely done. At the top of the paper here we've got the logo and the various sections within, and then in kind of a play on a traditional newspaper layout, you've got stories that are divided into sections with pictures, but where it differs of course to a regular newspaper on print is that the emphasis isn't on tiny text, it's on the big pictures and the headlines, and then tapping each picture obviously takes you into the story. You can, if you want to find out a little bit more about the story without having to actually go into the article itself, you can tap and hold any of the little stories, and it'll bring up a box with a little bit more information about the story if you just want a quick glimpse at the day's news. If you do decide that you want to read the story, you just tap it again and the iPad will launch into that story. It's very nicely laid out. At the top here you've got some really stunning photography in very high definition. It's you know, much nicer than looking at a printed page. It just makes their photography seem so different, just so much crisper and much more professional almost. Obviously it's all, you know, scrolly, it's great. You've got videos as well. You tap on a video.
He paid a visit to the so-called killing field.
Turning it in landscape mode will make that full screen. Seems to stream very nicely, very quickly. While you're in a story, you can just swipe to the left or right to bring up the next story. Oops. And one of the nice touches that I quite like is if you turn it into landscape mode, you get the full screen picture at the top of the story, but just a quick swipe up will take you to the first page of text, sort of laid out in newspaper style columns, and another quick swipe up will take you to the next page, and again you can just keep swiping left and right to find stories that interest you. You've got all the normal sections that you would expect in the paper. Our favourite, of course, is the technology section, and today we're treated with all sorts of iPhone and iPad stories, and look, here's one about the launch of the New Zealand Herald app. There's not too many negatives that I can tell you about this particular app. If I was to say any improvements possible, it would possibly be nice to have some sort of social networking integration. Perhaps these stories could have links to share them on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and perhaps even discussions. I did find yesterday a couple of stories that had on stuff.co.nz, they had discussions, comments at the bottom, but when they'd integrated the story into this app, those comments were missing, even though the story referenced them. You know, it said something like, here's what you have to say about it, and then it was just blank. And I've actually noticed the same thing on the TVNZ app as well, so that's obviously something that's quite difficult to implement for some reason. But yeah, I mean, this is a really top-notch effort from New Zealand Herald. I would actually say this is probably one of the nicer iPad news apps that I've seen. And not just from New Zealand but from anywhere. And you know, it's always quite exciting when something local adopts the iPhone or the iPad like this, and you know, really goes all out to do a good job of it. So hopefully it's the first of many. I'm sure it will be, but it's a great start. It's a free app, so you just need to go to the App Store or iTunes and download it. And if you've gone out and bought an iPad today, why not make it one of your first apps? So this is Steve for iPhone New Zealand.